Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It's not Friday, but this is our free agency preview, and I am just as excited as I would be for a Friday show. Keith, I don't know if you have a yell in you for free agency or what you have planned there, but let me know how excited you are.
I didn't, and I'm kind of afraid if I yell, I'm gonna lose the rest of what's left of my voice. So I'm gonna conserve it for now. I'll give everybody something tomorrow when we get into real front office Friday, Saturday morning. Maybe we'll see
Yeah.
what time we go live tomorrow. But yeah, man, I'm pumped. So much happened today, and it was like a flood at like what 2, 3 in
Yeah.
the afternoon. Like just all the stuff started coming down. Teams had more time to do stuff, but everybody seemed like, hey, let's get this done and let's get things moving. So I don't know where you want to start, but boy, we've got a lot to cover.
Well, yeah, we are less than 24 hours away from free agency officially kicking off, and it felt like today there were moments where it felt like it already started. Like
Yeah.
it was just one thing after another. And I guess I should have gotten a sound effect for this because Keith, we may need a Harden horn at this point because I think that's where we need to start. James Harden. Now, shocking. I mean, we heard Philly or Houston, Philly or Houston, Philly or Houston, and now he's opting into his contract so he can be traded, maybe to the Clippers, maybe to the Heat. We'll see where he ultimately goes. I was not expecting this turn of events for James Harden, and now here we are. James Harden asking out of like his third straight team.
Yeah, that's the fair way to put it. He's gonna be on 4 teams in 4 years by the time he's somewhere else. And I know there's stuff coming out of Philly that is saying like, hey, they haven't closed the door on this, and they're gonna wait and make the best deal for
Come
themselves.
on, like I roll
Yeah, I
my
mean,
eyes because look, the
yes,
and the Suns also have more value behind Ayton than ever before, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
No, well, it's like the cat gets out of the bag and then you try to pull it back real quick. No, wait. No, we're gonna get top value right now because we're gonna be very patient. We're not in any hurry. All this, so we hear this all the time. This is just the team trying to make sure that nobody tries to screw them over on like a fire sale type offer.
Yeah, for sure. So that is, that's kind of part one of like, I don't believe Philly thinks this is there, and I don't think they're going to hold out. I actually think there's a good chance this deal gets done either later today or tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
because I think what we're going to see happen in this case is that they're probably going to get into a point where it becomes better to make a trade now in this league year under these
Mm-hmm.
salary matching rules and all that. And a lot of that depends on who he gets traded to in the end, especially if it's a team like the Clippers. It's just easier for them to do it right now than it is to wait and do it down the line. But it's, we're going to find out, probably pretty quickly. That's just a guess. On my part, we obviously don't know that. Why did he opt in? Right. That's a question that some people have been asking. Why he opted in is because if he opts out, teams like the Clippers are off the table because he can't
Mm-hmm.
be signed in trade there because that would trigger the hard cap. So that's going to be, something they would not be able to do. So if he wants to go to a place like the Clippers, he needed to opt in. This is very similar to what Chris Paul did a few years ago, where he
Yeah.
opted in to get traded and then goes. So now, couple other things on this situation. James Harden not extension eligible. So this will not be an extend and trade deal. He will not get traded to where he's going and extend. He's only on a 2-year contract. This is only year 2. You can't extend a 2-year contract. So he's wherever he goes, I'm not going to call it a 1-year rental, but it's 1 year, then unrestricted free agency. Maybe at this point, 4 teams in 4 years, I should just call it a rental. Maybe that is how it goes, but we're going to find out, right? We don't know that for certain, but yeah, he's going to be playing somewhere else and probably playing somewhere else here pretty soon. And then the question becomes, where does Philly go, right? Can you get enough
Right.
back for him that you Philly? I was asked just recently on a radio spot, is Philly going to have to rebuild? I mean, they still have Embiid and Maxey, so no, right? They still have Tobias Harris. They're still gonna be a good team. What your goal now is, let's get 2, 3 rotation players for Harden and try to move this thing forward, and then long term, they're building it out around Embiid and Maxey, and that'll be their kind of core duo moving forward.
Yeah, that's just it. Like this, obviously the Sixers made a big move when they traded Ben Simmons and they got James Harden. What they do here is very likely going to set the course for this franchise for the next few years,
Yep.
and will ultimately determine, what's the future of Joel Embiid with the franchise. Like if they make the right move here, then everything, the sun continues to shine and they move forward, and maybe they stay in contention in the Eastern Conference. The wrong move here, taking the wrong deal, could put them down a path where a year from now, 2 years from now, however long, Joel Embiid starts looking around and thinking, maybe the grass is greener somewhere else.
Yeah, you just got to be really careful. Now, the return for Harden, and I think even Embiid will understand this, it's not going to be, a monster return. It's not going to be a Bradley Beal level of just kind of giving him away. It's going to be somewhere in between those, I've seen some Sixers fans be like, we need a Donovan Mitchell type of return. Well, you're not going to get it.
No.
It's not going to happen, right? Nobody's giving up multiple first-round draft picks for a guy who's his age with his now I think it's fair to say now injury history and, where he's going. So, that's not going to be a thing. So it's, we're going to see, how that kind of goes down. But it's, again, probably 2-3 useful players that can be rotation guys for you. And then you kind of go forward from there. And I kind of wonder if Philly would be like, what we'd really prefer, let's get some guys who only have a year or two left on their contracts. So we can really, when Harris comes off the books, those guys come off the books, we can really reset around Embiid, Maxey, and not a whole heck of a lot else on our salary cap sheet.
It feels like the Clippers are the favorite right now. The Knicks are also out there. The Heat are also out there. It is a little weird. What's the best scenario here? Like who do you think is most well situated to trade for Harden?
Clippers, I think that's the one that makes the most sense. It just, they're ready to win, right? They can bring him in. You right, he kind of aligns really good with Kawhi and Paul George. And let's say it all spectacularly fails and it is a complete mess. You can get out of it in a year, right? You can be like, well, all right, it didn't work. Let's really hit reset on this whole thing and start all over again. So that's that's why I think it's there. Miami's not bad too, right? I just think Miami becomes an odd fit because I don't know what they send back to Philly that makes Philly feel great. I mean, I've seen some people say, well, it'll be Kyle Lowry, probably just because of the salary matching. And maybe Kyle Lowry, maybe Duncan Robinson goes there and you move it forward from there. I don't know. I've seen some people getting crazy with the trade machine and, maybe it's Harden and Tobias Harris both go out, and it's like, that's like $80 million in matching salary. Like, that gets to be a little pricey there. I saw some, Sixers fans, I'm pretty sure, saying, well, why send them to Portland and go get Damian Lillard? I don't think that's where Portland wants to go if they trade Dame. So I'm going to guess the Clippers. The Knicks just doesn't make sense to me. So I would say the Clippers, then probably the Heat.
Now, from James Harden's perspective, I can't help but feel like this is a mistake. Like in terms of, and maybe not if Harden says, I've made my money, I'm good, I just want to win, and I don't think I can do it here in Philly or whatever, which I think they can win in Philly. But regardless, if James Harden says, I need to go somewhere else to win and that's all I care about, okay. But he's going to now hit free agency next summer. I don't think the market is going to be kinder to him next summer when he's 35 and he's got another year on the odometer than it would be right now, particularly if he's looking for a long-term deal. So again, it's possible that he's decided he's prioritizing other stuff above money, and that's fine, more power to him. But strictly from a maximizing your earning power perspective, I don't think this is a wise move.
I agree. I don't know that it's somebody called him wheelchair instead of Kawhi, and that just kind of made me laugh. I don't think I think you're right on that. I don't think there's going to be more left. That's to me why it's like, hey, let's get me somewhere where I really have a chance at winning, right? Like I want to do this, but do you not have that chance in Philly? Like I don't understand that. But my guess, and honestly, this is just a guess, is that Harden was trying to play Philly and Houston against each other a little. And I think Philly and Houston were like, man, neither one of us is very interested in giving you a full 4-year max deal. Like that's not the direction we want to go in. And my guess is at that point that became, all right, then I'm just going to opt in, trade me, get me out of here. And I'll figure it out later. right? Because I'm guessing those two teams both balked and said, no, not doing full 4-year max deals. And then if you're Harden, might as well opt in and go somewhere, ideally that you want to be. And Philly's not going to take a bad deal or a stupid deal, to send him where he wants to be. But they are also they're probably going to work with him to some extent, right? To say, all right, let's try to get you somewhere. So if for no other reason, the affinity Daryl Morey feels for James Harden, right? That's why he'll try to take care of him.
That's what I was going to say. It's Morey and what that relationship is like. That is going to get James Harden where he wants to go. But yeah, I mean, the whole, well, you're not going to give me 4 years. You're not going to give me 4 years. Fine. I'm taking my beard and leaving. Like that. I don't know. There's like a pettiness to that.
Sure.
It just, anyway. James Harden's now forced his way out of like 3 consecutive teams. And I was thinking about this earlier today. We've got a lot of other topics to get to, but I was thinking about this earlier today. Whose career would you rather have, James Harden or Damian Lillard?
That's a good quote. Probably Dame's. I mean,
right?
Neither one.
And Harden has the MVP.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, but probably Dame, right? I mean, at least if nothing else, you're absolutely beloved in a city, and you can say I was the best player in franchise history on my team, right? And I mean, if Harden had a title, I'd probably lean Harden, right? That's at the end of the day, that's the goal, is to try to win a championship. Right. But he doesn't have a title, so it's close though. I mean, it's really close. I honestly, give me either one of them salaries that they made, and I'd be perfectly happy.
Well, I mean, give me the money for sure. But just in terms of like, it can get a little gross when you get these guys that are just kind of bouncing around from team to team to team to team to team,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's like you want. And in that sense, I kind of respect what Damian Lillard has done, staying with Portland for so long, rather than constantly going, nope, I don't like it here, see it. Nope, I don't like it here, see you later. It gets to be a bit much.
No, I hear you. Bruce Barnes asked in the chat, how could Houston have told James Harden they wouldn't pay him? Wouldn't that be tampering? Sure. Yep. Absolutely. Is it tampering to say no? Like, no, I mean, I guess that's a form of tampering. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, again, let's all be grown-ups here, right? Trevor and I have been very clear, and maybe you're new to the show. Tampering's not a thing that really gets us all worked up. We don't get angry about it. There's specific situations that we don't like where it's clear and it's not good for anybody really involved. But for the most part, that's on, especially 2-3 days ahead of free agency. That's not something we're going to get worked up over.
Yeah, I mean, teams have to have an idea of what they're doing when the bell sounds and free agency starts. So yes, all these conversations are already happening and they have to.
When does Trevor keep saying there's no tampering in the NBA? I've heard you say it sarcastically.
Oh, yeah. I have been. I've been saying it sarcastically for days and days and days and days.
Yeah, this is a video and audio form.
I've been saying that for a while, but extremely sarcastic. If I could speak in green font, I would. But I thought I got it. I thought I got the sarcasm across. Andrew said, if Kyrie's taking less than he's going to the Lakers, I do have Kyrie as a topic here. Sure. So we need to talk about this. So Chris Haynes puts out that Kyrie is meeting with the Suns. And then John Gambadoro, who's like as plugged in with the Suns as anybody, tweets out, this is crazy. Kyrie's not meeting with the Suns. And just logistically, Keith, you know more about the cap than I do. But I've been looking at the Suns cap sheet, trying to figure out some kind of loophole other than Kyrie just decides he doesn't like money. And I can't find a way to get Kyrie to the Suns in a way that doesn't trigger a hard cap that the Suns can't cross or anything like that. It makes no sense other than Kyrie just wants to tell the Mavs, see, look, someone else is interested in me, so give me an extra year on the deal or something like that.
There it is. It's that last part, right?
Yeah.
This is a leverage play. This is, I have other options, right? That's what he's trying to drum up here. I will say, if I wake up in the morning on July 1st to a text that says an NBA superstar agreed to a minimum contract deal with a team and left hundreds of millions of dollars on the table, you wouldn't even have to give me guesses. I'd be like, where did Kyrie sign? Right? That's literally the only guy I could see doing that. And that's not even a real criticism. He's just, Kyrie does things a different way from everybody else. Mm-hmm. That said, I would be completely stunned if that's the way. I think I said it on a show a couple years ago. if you guys don't know, I don't like avocados and I don't like guacamole. Go ahead and rip me apart in the chat. I know that's very weird.
And it's one of the few things we disagree on.
If Kyrie Irving ends up with the Phoenix Suns, I'll eat a whole giant bowl of guacamole here one day, which sounds like a punishment to no one, but I don't like it. I really don't like it. So I'll do that on a live show. I'll just, pound guacamole so everybody can see if he goes to the Suns. It's just not a thing.
We're going to go live, and it's just going to be Keith silently eating a bowl of guacamole.
Yeah. Covered
no
in it,
commentary, nothing. Just Keith.
Nope.
Keith
for all the people who say let Trevor talk, you can do the whole show. I'll just sit here and eat guacamole.
Just sits there and eats guac.
But yeah, I'm telling you guys right now, it's not. It's like it's not happening. I mean, not to be that guy, but this is what I do, and I couldn't come up with any reasonable way where he would be on anything approaching a decent salary where he could go there, because it would have to be a sign and trade. And there's just no way the Suns can make it work unless all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we salary dumped Devin Booker onto the San Antonio Spurs.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not going to be a thing either. So it's not a thing. I mean, maybe, it's funny. I saw a lot of people tweeting before and after John Gambadoro tweeted his thing, tweeting, do the Suns know Kyrie Irving intends to meet with them? Like, are they aware? So,
are the Suns aware of this?
It's just, it just can't be a thing. No, I do not secretly love guacamole. I promise you. I think it's disgusting. I don't like green mush stuff. I eat plenty of green vegetables. I love broccoli.
It's so good.
Green mushy stuff. Ugh.
Like when you get the legit, like the real stuff, not the stuff you get out of like a can or something like that. Like you get the legit guac. Oh, it's so good. So good. Anyway, I have to think, like in Kyrie's brain, like tomorrow morning at sunrise, he's going to be meditating outside or something, and he's going to be like, "I'm meeting with the Suns right now."
That could be.
That's what it is.
Maybe that's what he was talking about.
That's what it is.
Maybe he meets with the Sun every day.
He just accidentally pluralized it. He's meeting with the Sun tomorrow. Yeah. That's what it is. That's what it is. Okay.
There it is.
Josh Hart helps out the Knicks. Surprisingly, picks up the option on his deal. I thought for sure we were going to hear Josh Hart, inks 3-4 year deal, something like that with the Knicks. Instead, picks up the option. And I have not gone deep into the Knicks salary cap structure, but from what I've seen reported is that essentially that gives the Knicks potentially the non-taxpayer mid-level to use because of Josh Hart making this decision. But why? So is this kind of a wink, we're going to take care of you next summer, or what? I'm surprised that this is the path this went down. I thought for sure Josh Hart was going to lock up 3-4 years on a deal.
Yeah, I don't even think this will be next summer. I think they're going to extend him. And I think he is not a max guy. So especially the new veteran extension rules, which go up to 140% of his current salary, which is basically $13 million. That's going to give him enough. And I think what the Knicks are probably saying is, all right, let's say, and I'm completely making numbers up here, but let's say they were like, hey, we were going to do a 4-year, $60 million deal in free agency for you. Now what we'll do is $13 million. We'll do 3 years and $47 million in an extension, which then you still get $60 million over 4 years. But this frees up the ability for us to use the non-taxpayer MLE this summer, which is big, right? That's a nice piece of salary to give out in a contract.
Okay.
Breaking news. You want to do some breaking news?
Yeah. Hold up.
Play it.
Here we go.
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
Wow. Horrifying this one is.
Horrifying. But... It's not horrifying.
No.
But we've got Harrison Barnes agreed on a new 3-year, $54 million contract extension with the Kings. Oh boy, ripple effects, Keith.
Yep.
Does this take the Kings out of the Kyle Kuzma sweepstakes?
Probably takes him out of the Kuzma sweepstakes. My guess is what Sacramento is doing too loud. If it's too loud, you're too
meant
old.
to go back and lower the volume on that and re-upload it, and I just never did.
Never. If you are the Kings now, what you did is you're bringing Harrison Barnes back on a lower number than what he was on a year ago. So you're using some of their roughly, let me get into my sheets here. They had about $34.7 million in cap space. So my guess is this is again just a guess. You're going to see the Kings. They're going to re-sign Harrison Barnes, take the remainder of that cap space, and probably give it to Domantas Sabonis in a renegotiation and extension. They'll bring his number up from 22 million and bring him up to a number that's a lot more, in line with an All-NBA center. And then they'll add years onto it from there. That will lock in their core group for the next 3-4 seasons. And that's how they'll move forward. They'll still have the room exception at 7.7. Chunk of that probably goes to Trey Lyles, would be my guess. Maybe the entire thing. And Sacramento more or less will run it back.
This and look, I think this isn't a bad move for Sacramento. I like Harrison Barnes gets all this negativity every time I bring him up because he had a rough playoff series, but I think he's good. I think on this contract is just fine. I thought he was really good getting to the free throw line and shot a high percentage there, which is a very important skill set for a team. In terms of the overall market, this takes a team that had made some moves to potentially free up some cap space, maybe somebody that could be a destination for an above mid-level exception player like a Kyle Kuzma. It takes them off the board. I mean, that leaves us really with like 7 teams or so that actually have cap space to go spend. And when that money runs out, that's going to be something to really keep an eye on around the league, because I think there's going to be a few free agents that are still left standing when the proverbial music stops and there's no more money to spend.
I agree. Yeah, every 2 years it happens, but it feels like this year especially, there's going to be 6-7 guys that are, let's say Sunday, Monday, that it's like, whoa, all the money's gone. Like the cap space is gone, the exceptions are gone. And that's where the teams that are like, hey, minimum deal, but plenty of playing time on a good team, they're going to get those guys and get them to come in for those kind of offers. That happens every year, but it feels like we could have, a better class of player, I guess is the way I want to phrase that, than usually is available there. Normally, if you're a minimum guy, it's either you're old, you're injury prone, or you're like a one skill guy. We may see some guys who are like, actually, they're not so bad, and they're just kind of taking, taking a shot on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, can I get into something? I don't know if you had it on there. Did you have Herb Jones as a topic?
Yes, actually, that's my next.
Okay.
That's my next
Perfect.
thing. There it is.
Mind meld.
There it is.
A lot of people are wondering what happened here. So the Pelicans declined their team option for Herb Jones. They're going to make him a restricted free agent. Herb Jones would have been a restricted free agent a year from now anyway, in 2024, because he would have only had 3 years of service. If you're a player outside of first round rookie scale players, if you have 4 or less than 4 years of service, you are eligible to be a restricted free agent. Years ago, people kind of probably forgot this, but when the Cavs under LeBron's second stint got really good, Matthew Dellavedova was a restricted free agent 2 consecutive seasons because he signed a 1-year deal with the Cavs and then came back again as a restricted free agent the next year. I think that year he ended up going to Milwaukee and Cleveland just let him go. But in this case, so the Pelicans are going a year early. This happened just 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, with Jayshawn Tate of the Houston Rockets. They declined their team option a year early to get Jayshawn Tate on a deal and it's a really fair value deal for the Rockets for what Jayshawn Tate is as a player. But this to me says the Pelicans they don't want to mess with it next summer. Let's just get it done. Let's try to get him signed under this cap, under this environment here. He is now in the exact same situation as Austin Reeves. He's an Arenas level free agent. Tops out the offer from the Pelicans, 50-ish million and change there, 53 maybe. I've got to rerun the new math with the new cap, and we'll find out when the average player salary comes in and all that stuff. But in that range, in the max offer sheet from another team, right around 100 million, that's what another team could offer him. My guess is the Pelicans did this with an understanding of, hey, we've got an agreement. You're going to come back here for 50-something million. But we'll see. This may turn into the Pelicans, turning this into, oh, man, we messed up because the Spurs or the Rockets or somebody's all defense level guy. Hey, you want him? You can keep him. But guess what? You're paying him a whole lot more money than you thought you might have to.
Yeah, I was going to say, could we it's not the same situation because of the restricted aspect of it, but could this be like another Carlos Boozer situation?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I mean, and then it becomes a Pelicans decision, right? And that team is super duper expensive already, right? You've got 3 guys over 30 million in Ingram, CJ McCollum, and Zion, whose extension kicks in at the start of this coming season. So that's tough, right? So we'll see. But that's my guess. Is this where this goes? I will also say, let's assume, because I think you don't do this unless you feel pretty good about he's going to sign for the max we can give him. This, though, lends to me taking Herb Jones from like 1.9 million to like 10 million or so, 12 million, whatever it's going to be.
12,
this says to me, Valanciunas is probably gone. They're probably moving on from him in a trade because I can't see them going that deep into the tax. They've never really done that, and I don't think this is the year to do it in New Orleans. So someone had asked in the chat why this is different from Jokic and other guys. They did it in the last year where it was kind of last chance to make them restricted. They waited. They did not have the extra year that the Pelicans could have held on and done this with.
So this is, I mean, if you're like the Spurs and you're getting Wemby and you've got like, what is it, 30 something million, 37 million in cap space to go play with, like projecting into the future, Herb Jones playing with Wembanyama, like that could be really, really good. That could be like, and I'm sure that the Pelicans probably already have an understanding with Herb Jones, but it wouldn't shock me if some team came along and said, hey, why not take a shot here? Because this is a piece that we could really use.
Yeah, I mean, defensive-minded coach Ime Udoka and Houston, could they say, "Hey, man, it seems like they're gonna have more cap space than they know what to do with," even if we're hearing them linked to Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, but could they get involved? Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different teams that I think could get involved here. I don't think that's how this plays out. I think New Orleans did this with an understanding with Herb Jones of, hey, we're still going to give you, a good chunk of money, but it could be there, right? It definitely could be, in that spot.
Okay, so let's get into. We have a few super chat questions. We do need to kind of preview what we think is going to happen tomorrow, kind of the big moves and things of that nature. But we've got this one's from Samir. Said, will salaries become more similar since trade policies will change with the new CBA? Meaning money coming in and out has to match?
Yeah, it's a good question, but I don't think so. I mean, max guys are still going to be max guys. Guys who could get the mid-level are still going to be mid-level guys. I think what you want to do if you're a team with the new rules, you want to have some mid-range contracts, which mid-range contracts used to be like 9 to 12 million. Now they're going to be more like 15 to 20 million. You want to make sure you have enough of those in reserve to go get somebody. I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. Look for some guys over the next 2-3 years. If you say, it's probably a $10 million player, you might get like 15, 16, 17. It's not enough to tip it to a bad contract, but it's enough to make them a better piece of salary matching in a trade, if that's where it goes. I've said it multiple times. I don't like thinking of players, even with what I do as a cap guy, as a salary number. But when they're getting more money, I feel a lot less bad about thinking about them that way, because I think they're perfectly fine on the 1st and the 15th of every month.
All right. There were a lot of player options and things like that we saw decisions made on. Player options, team options, guarantees, non-guaranteed, all that kind of stuff. Probably more than we have time to run through all of them today. But were there any particular ones that stood out to you where you were either surprised by it or you just thought was particularly impactful?
Yeah, I mean, somebody said, did you guys see the report the Sixers are trading Harden? Sure. Yeah, we saw it.
Wait,
unless
what?
there's like a new one that they're actually doing that right now. It's so not to play fully to the crowd here, but obviously the Lakers are setting up now fully to use the full MLE, the 12.4 million MLE. So they're going to try to align everything. My guess is they have a real good feeling on what their internal numbers are on, probably priced into their planning is if we have to match on a max on Austin Reeves, and here's what our numbers can be for Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell. This is how we get to the full non-taxpayer, and let's move forward with running it back with probably maybe an addition or so, or they use that to plus up Dennis Schroeder's salary. I've seen that mentioned as a possibility. I've seen Brooke Lopez and Bruce Brown as guys that are mentioned. Lopez, that seems a little light for me. I think he'll probably get more from the Bucks.
I agree.
In that one. Bruce Brown, though, that's maybe in range. We're hearing he might meet with Dallas. It sounds like 29 teams. Probably
interesting.
30. I shouldn't keep the Nuggets out, but all 30 are. It sounds like they're would like a meeting with Bruce Brown, which makes sense. But yeah, I think the Lakers are lining up to do something, right? That's why you declined Beasley. That's why you waived Mo Bamba. I know people think I just hate Mo Bamba. I don't hate. I actually like Mo Bamba as a person. I think he's a great guy. It's just 10.3 million was too much. He was never going to be on the Lakers roster at that number. He may be back on a minimum or even, maybe they use a little bit more if they need to bring him back. But it just didn't make sense at 10.3 million. So they're lined up to do some stuff.
And Beasley, they'll have bird rights on still. They could bring him back on a cheaper price, but this at least gives them the opportunity to use that mid-level.
Something with Beasley too. That's a great example of those two guys actually are a really good example of the difference between a team option and a non-guarantee. So they get used interchangeably a lot, including in a lot of reporting. Trevor knows it drives me crazy because I send him all kinds of texts angry about it.
So Keith, I have talked about Bamba and Beasley a few times. Well, obviously just a few times today. And in most of my conversations, I've made sure to specify non-guaranteed and team option, and I've prefaced it by saying over on the front office show, Keith Smith's going to kill me if I don't say it this way. So
I appreciate that. That makes my whole evening much better. So what I'll say on these guys is why it's different is in the case of Beasley, they decline the team option. He sits there as a cap hold, and they have full bird rights to really sign him to whatever they want down the line. And as long as you don't trip into the hard cap and everything else, you could use the non-taxpayer and go. Bamba, by being waived, the Lakers no longer have any form of bird rights on him or anything. They can still re-sign him, but they can't necessarily go over the cap to do it. They can't really do anything beyond give him part of an exception in this case. So that's the difference between those kind of things. Now, if the Lakers did re-sign him, let's say they did a one-year deal, and I'm just making up $5 million, they would have full bird rights at the end of that because he didn't change teams. But when you waive a player, not only that, but you also expose them to waivers. He's not going to get claimed by anybody. But, had that happened, that's why you don't do that sometimes. So those are some of the differences that are meaningful between a team option and a non-guarantee. Beyond that, a team option, once you exercise it, you can immediately trade the player. There's a whole bunch of other things. So that's it.
Yep. And that's why we do have to specify that. Any others that you were surprised with?
Jordan Clarkson?
Yeah, that was one that I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation earlier today with somebody, and I said, look, somebody within the league, and I said, Jordan Clarkson picking up his option on this, that doesn't make me super confident about the overall strength of the market. Like if Clarkson is looking at the free agent environment at his age and thinking, I probably need to wait another year before I try to go get my money, that's a little surprising because I think most years that would not happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think that becomes with Jordan Clarkson too. He might be looking at it and saying, we're pretty good here. Like I'm content to just stay here in Utah, and maybe they extend him. We had heard that as an option. I think Tony Jones of The Athletic was one of the first people I saw who put that out there in the world of, they may just extend Jordan Clarkson down the line, and that's still possible. I mean, he's under contract now for next season, but that could be something that comes after we roll into the new league year and all that. A couple others, KJ Martin having his team option picked up by the Rockets was a little surprising because of the restricted free agency stuff we talked about earlier. By picking up his team option, now next summer he will be an unrestricted free agent because this is year 4 for him. So he'll go into unrestricted free agency, and that'll get potentially a spot where they may not be able to keep him, right? If he has another good solid year, he could go out. It did create about $3-ish million more in cap space for the Rockets because he's now going to be on the books for under $2 million. He would have been potentially on the books for more had they made him a restricted free agent this summer. So that was interesting. And then this one's super minor, but maybe gives us a sense that Orlando isn't necessarily thinking they're going to be a major cap space player. Goga Batadze, they picked up his team option. And that's just something you don't do if you feel like we absolutely have to max out our cap space. So I would not, there's been floated like they could waive Jonathan Isaac. Maybe they could waive Gary Harris. Neither one of those things are happening. They're probably just going to move in with roughly 20 million in cap space and see what they can do with that. That's enough to get them a targeted player if they really want, because they're not in the mix for any one of these, super, free agent guys like Harden or Irving or anybody like that.
Right. Okay. Let's get into our preview here. Well, actually, here, let's do this. Senpai said chances Kelly Olynyk gets waived.
He didn't get waived. He got fully guaranteed.
Yeah. So that's not going to happen there.
Nope.
Eric Gordon got mentioned as a potentially linked to the Lakers. Somebody said if he gets more than the veteran minimum, I'm pissed. I mean, Eric Gordon. So this is a different situation, right? We talk about players all the time where, like, for example, with Chris Paul, we were talking about Chris Paul, if he gets bought out, he's still getting his money. And then there's the, as you say, set off, I say offset, right? And so it might behoove him just to take a veteran minimum, and he's already getting paid. Gordon does not get the 21 million or whatever he was going to get. He doesn't get. So his new contract, he's not a guy who, like, if there's an option for 5 million out there, and his other option is a veteran minimum, that 5 million, that's a lot more. It's not the situation where a guy's accepted a buyout and then some of that money goes back to the prior team or anything like that. So I think the contract amount may very well end up mattering a lot for Eric Gordon here.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, he may be a guy who you see, gets a chunk of somebody's exception. Maybe a team, one of these cap space teams, if they're, let's say, team land some guys, they feel pretty good about their offseason. Maybe they offer him the room exception and say, hey, can you come in on top of what we've done already? It was funny. There was a period of time today where it was like, well, it's obvious he's just going to go to Philly, right? James Harden and PJ Tucker and Daniel House, and they're all there, so they're just going to rebuild that. But now that seems to be out the window. So yeah, I'm curious to see where Eric Gordon lands, because I think he can still play. I mean, he's still can shoot the ball and still gets to the free throw line in decent amounts. Still does a lot of things. So did you see how much that saved the Clippers in taxes, though?
110 million.
110 million by waiving Eric.
That's
Eric
a lot even
Gordon's,
for Ballmer.
20 million. Yeah. It's funny because that shows you even Steve Ballmer, who would like buy the entire league and be like, it's now the National Ballmer Association. He could Basket Ballmer Association maybe. He has a limit where he's like, we don't need to be paying 110 million to have Eric Gordon on the roster. Let's be reasonable here. Move it along. I do wonder though, do they wish they had him for salary matching,
right?
In a Harden trade, maybe.
That's why I texted you and I said, did that actually, like, did they submit the paperwork on that? Did that go through?
Yeah,
because they could really use that contract now.
Yep.
All right, let's talk a little bit about tomorrow. Tomorrow, 3:00 Pacific time, 6:00 Eastern, the bell sounds and free agency officially begins. What are we expecting? Do you think we're going to hear anything ahead of the bell, ahead of it actually starting? Because the NBA they get a little bit cranky when stuff gets out early, and for good reason. We had stuff coming out like a day or two ahead of time at one point.
Or like 6 days with Kemba Walker to the Celtics. Or
that's right.
Ridiculous thing that was,
So do we think we get anything out there early, or is it just, we hit that time, 6:00 Eastern, and the floodgates open?
I don't think we're going to get anything early. I think teams are tired of getting dinged for this because they get in trouble, right? In the new CBA, agents and players can get in trouble for this stuff too. So I've seen some speculate they're not going to leak anything, and it's going to be July 6th. Is when we all, we get all the news. That's not going to be how this plays out. It's not going to be that crazy. Teams need to know what people are doing, right? So, but I don't think we're going to start getting stuff tonight or tomorrow. What we may get, legal things, a James Harden trade if it goes down in this league year, or even an agreed to trade that has to happen in the next league year. Extensions, like we just saw the Barnes extension. We saw Vooch get extended yesterday. Naz Reid a couple days ahead of that. We're probably going to get more things like that. There may be a few more extensions that come down, but major, breaking news, Chris Middleton is signing with X for X dollars. I think that's probably going to be more in the, 601, 605 range and those kind of things. The NBA they're not stupid. They know Nobody negotiates a multi-million-dollar, $100 million contract in 5 minutes, right? And or less than 5 seconds, right?
Right.
But what they don't want is one, like you said, days in advance, because that's not cool. And they don't want, okay, this guy's going here in this super complex, sign and trade that involves a 3-team deal, and all these guys are being moved all around, like the Bogdan Bogdanovic thing with the Bucks.
Sure.
You didn't work that out 2 minutes into free agency. There's no way you had that on the table early. So that's what they're trying to avoid, is that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that it's going to be more of a floodgate situation where the bell sounds. Now, I think we're going to be hearing some rumors, some things are going to be popping up tomorrow. Like today was a very busy day. But I was all just kind of in preparation for what we might see coming tomorrow. And then we're going to get those signings.
Creative freezing. It's going to be almost like at the draft, the silliness there of like
laser focused on.
Yeah. They're shooting Fred VanVleet for, whatever. What you're probably not going to get is Fred VanVleet and the Rockets have agreed to an $80 million contract over 2 years, probably until like 601 or something like that. Yeah, I mean, Woj probably already has, and Shams too, maybe Stein, maybe Haynes. They probably got a couple in the drafts already that they're just waiting to, for the bell to ring to hit send on. And then we'll see it. And it generally goes pretty quick, right? It generally goes pretty quick in the first, opening, hour or so. We'll get a whole bunch of stuff and, all that. And then it'll slow down a little bit and then it'll pick back up. And, that's just kind of how it goes. It all comes in waves. But yeah, it's going to be, a fun night tomorrow night. It's for an East Coaster, it's nice that it starts at 6 now. It's not.
And no more midnights. Like it had its own charm of things, happening at midnight, and you're getting the, the stories about the execs sitting outside of the players' house right at 12:01, ringing the bell and all that kind of stuff. That had its own charm to it. But yes, this is much more practical having things start this way.
There was always the fun part too. The next morning when the people who weren't up at midnight were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, what happened last night at midnight? And it was like, man, you got to be up with the nuts and the sickos at night.
Oh, like Sam Vecini. And where's he? He's in Australia.
In Australia now.
Yeah. When he comes on Twitter.
Because he's completely across the other side of the world. So definitely for sure. It's there. I think that there's something to that, but I'll take the functionality, being awake and not having to run cap math at midnight, 1 a.m. So
Eric Pincus just tweeted out your same idea for the renegotiate and extend on Sabonis. So great minds thinking like there. All right, let me ask you this: who's the team to watch? Like, who's the team that you think has the most high probability of giving us oh crap moment? Like, we did not see that coming, the RKO from out of the blue, if you will. Who is that team?
I would have picked the Kings if they were sitting on 30 million in cap space. I felt like they could have been a major player. It's a very easy pick to take off the board. Portland still, right? If they decide it's time, we're trading Dame, it's going to be hard for anybody to top that throughout the course of the opening days of free agency. So I'll say Portland, but that's probably a very cheap and easy pick. Who are you thinking?
I'm thinking the Raptors, because they're the team that still, we have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody knows exactly what they're up to. They've had, of course, you've got a number of guys who have been on the trade block for a while now. And just their names are popping up everywhere, but not enough to where we say, oh, okay, we know this guy's probably going to this destination or anything. They're the team that I think could surprise everybody out of the blue and do something big.
Yeah, I like that one. I kind of hope it happens, right? It's probably time for some of those big moves. Yeah. I'll say this: something is going to happen that we're going to be like, oh my gosh, like that's bonkers. Just because, and I'll only say that because the Harden thing's already out there, right? That's already now a known thing. So we'll see. But I mean, it's funny. I've seen people being like, man, it's boring. Nothing's happened. It's like, Bradley Beal got traded, Kristaps Porzingis traded. Like, we've already had, a bunch of big things that have happened.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's, it can't be every 5 seconds it's a superstar traded. Like, it's just not how it works.
I've got people on Twitter that are like, it's getting quiet. Like this day has been insane. Like I don't specifically remember the day before free agency from years past. I don't remember thinking like, oh, this day was particularly nuts or anything.
No.
But so I don't recall exactly what happened on those days. Maybe it was busy. But right now in the moment, I'm thinking today is one of the crazier free agency eves that we've had.
I agree. Yeah, I completely agree. Want to knock out a couple of these remaining super chats before we call it a night?
Yeah, let's do it. So I've got this one said, my idea is the Rockets should go after Grant Williams.
Not a bad idea. Yeah, I think that's fine for the Rockets. Front court's a little crowded there already, right? You've got Jabari Smith, you've got KJ Martin, you've got Tari Eason, you got Alperen Şengün. It's just getting to be you've now got Cam Whitmore in the mix too. That probably keeps them from doing something like Grant Williams. But in general, I don't hate the idea. You just have to have something else moved, or some other move lined up to kind of free things up a little bit.
All right. Yeah, I agree. And I think what we've heard most is the Rockets linked to Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, almost to the point where people are assuming those are just certainties, like it's happening. And if that's the case, that I mean, do they really go crazy with the Fred VanVleet offer? Like what we've heard, like that $80 million 2-year offer and stuff. Like if they do, there goes the bulk of their cap space. So that's going to be something worth keeping an eye on. And that would obviously take them out of the running for a player like Grant Williams, if that winds up being the move that they make. But they're certainly a team to keep an eye on because they do have the most cap space to go spend.
Yeah, and important to remember, you can't just sit on it like in years past.
Yeah.
Once you get to day one of the regular season, whatever you're under the floor goes away. That you get pushed up to the salary floor, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, guess we should have spent it. So yeah, you might as well spend it when you're at that point.
Right. All right. Before we get to this next question, I just want to say, look, we've got like 3,400 people in here right now all at the same time. Obviously, we're so happy to have all of you here. If you haven't done so yet, do us a favor and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Turn on notifications. Just hit that subscribe button real quick. Turn on those notifications. We keep you guys up to date. This isn't just a day before free agency thing that we do here. We're here all year long, breaking down everything for you guys. So we're trying to get our subscriber count up. Hit that subscribe button, and then also hit the like button.
Yes.
That's something that can help us out. Good way to help out the channel. Hit the like button. And then, of course, follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you listen to podcasts. That way you can take the show with you. You can't catch a show on YouTube. You don't have time to actually sit and watch the show. You can download the podcast version of the show and take that with you. You're out mowing your lawn. You're at the gym. You're doing whatever. You're on a road trip. We can annoy your family in the car when you put this on. All of those things. So subscribe to the podcast version. And, of course, make sure you do subscribe here on the YouTube channel as well. All right, that's my cheap plug.
Yeah, good timing.
Let's check this one out. Atlanta's next move. Any realistic targets? So the John Collins move has now finally happened. John Collins is no longer an Atlanta Hawk. What do they do next? Is there still the urgency? I mean, we've heard Clint Capella. We've heard DeAndre Hunter. Is there still urgency to move off those guys?
Yeah, I think it was Woj who said everybody but Trae Young's at least they're open to talking about, that's more common than I think people think. It's, there's very few untouchable players in the league. The list is less than 10. And people think it's, one per team, or some teams have 5. Like, that's just not how it works, right? And, we see that every summer, with big trades. But my guess they're going to keep working, right? Yeah, they dipped under the tax by trading John Collins, but not super far under. So, if they can make another move or two and maybe move out, DeAndre Hunter to rebalance, create a little bit more room to re-sign Sadiq Bey and extend him this summer, extend Nyeka Okongwu, and create more space that way while maybe picking up a future asset or two or cost-controlled younger player. I think they would probably be open to something like that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that the pressure seems to be off a little bit, that there's not, you must make something happen because they finally did.
Yeah, they did. They made that happen. And so now they can go into negotiations without teams saying, like, we know you have to do something. And so we'll see how all that looks. DeJounte Murray is a guy to keep an eye on. We'll see what they ultimately do with him. I still think the optics of trading, if they don't get a decent return after they just gave up so much to get him last summer, probably wouldn't look great. Yeah. So that's something to consider when we look at that.
They could say, well, we don't like him, and that was the old front office's fault, right? Like,
True.
it's still
The Bradley
not-
Beal.
but he's good. Like, I
Yeah.
would not do that. So yeah.
Right. So there's certainly somebody to watch. Another thing I wonder is the Spurs. What do the Spurs do? Like, it's been kind of quiet on the Spurs front.
Always, though, nothing gets out of there.
Exactly. And they're sneaky. They're
Mhm.
sneaky. So you never know what they could be up to. They're also a team that wouldn't surprise me if they kind of came from out of the blue and did something. In fact, here's Darren said, should the Spurs go after Austin Reeves? So I've heard that basically that's it. That's the team that would go and mess with Austin Reeves if there was somebody that was going to sign him.
I mean, if we keep it out of the let's get, mess with the Lakers and make them overpay, even keeping that out of it. If, let's say, the Lakers were like, yeah, we can't match for some reason, they wouldn't. But if they did that, that's a great signing for the Spurs, right? He'd be a really good player for them. They can use another kind of guy. He'd be their primary ball handler, right? It'd be, are you going to play the point? You're going to be on ball a lot, and who wouldn't want to play with Victor Wembanyama at this point? That's why I'm not going to say they're a sleeping giant, but they could pick off a couple of these guys. They're probably not day one players in free agency and going after the big names. But what you may see is, hey, that guy's still out there. All right, we can get him. Let's go make it happen. Because with Wembanyama, there's a sense of, Spurs don't really intend to be bad again. Right. If they end up being good, great. We're good. And let's keep it moving and move right along with this young guy. And Austin Reeves would be great. I think the challenge comes for the Spurs is, do they want to tie up their potential cap space? Right. Because you have a pretty good sense that the Lakers are going to match that offer sheet, because you can't, if there weren't restrictions on how much another team could pay Austin Reeves, if they could push it up to like 140 million total over 4 years, then you might get the Lakers being like, all right, that's now out of bounds, right? We can't go there. But where it's 100 million, I think for the Lakers, they're just going to say, okay, if that's what we have to match, that's what we have to match. And for Austin Reeves' sake, I hope somebody comes in with a big offer sheet and the Lakers have to match, because that's how he gets the most money.
Exactly.
And I'd like to see him, get paid. So that's kind of the hope. But, and the Spurs, maybe on the flip side, maybe the Spurs are like, I'm going to use the cap space anyway. Who cares if we tie it up for a few days in an offer sheet for Austin Reeves? It's not a big deal. We can make it happen after that.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. And like I said, right now, that's the way it sounds, is that if anybody's going to give Austin Reeves a big offer, it'll be the Spurs. That will be the team to do it. And we'll see if that winds up being the case once we get into free agency. Again, that starts up tomorrow at 6:00 Eastern time. All right, Keith. I think we covered quite a bit here.
Yeah.
And, let's try to rest up a little bit. Some more stuff could happen tonight, I guess. But let's try to rest up a little bit, because tomorrow, oh boy, it's going to be a big day.
And we'll tell you all, if something major happens in the middle of the day, we'll maybe fit in a live front office Friday regular show and kind of get that in. It'll probably be a shorter show, but look for us in the late hours on the East Coast, the getting late hours on the West Coast. After, what we try to do is let everything kind of, we try to, all right, it looks like things are kind of quieting down a little bit for the night, and we'll jump in, we'll recap, we'll do questions. It's a lot of fun. You get Trevor and I super punchy, and we get a little weird, and or just weirder. We're already a little weirder all the time, so we get a little weird with that. We'll try to keep the loud sound effects to a minimum, but if big things happen, you're going to get them. So
breaking news, man. And then you're going to get the drop.
That's it. You got to get there. Horrifying news stories have to be talked about, right? You have to get them out there when you can. And if there's a trade to announce, Adam Silver will tell us there's been a trade to announce.
That's right. Yeah,
we're gonna have a lot of fun tomorrow, one way or another. At some point in the day on Friday. We'll see y'all.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. Again, make sure you are subscribing to the YouTube channel. Turn on those notifications as well. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.